Most men think bad boys win because they're confident, reckless, or attractive. That's wrong. They win because they use one psychological trick most men accidentally do the opposite of. Machiavelli warned about this centuries ago, long before dating apps, long before modern psychology. Today, I'll expose the trick, why it works, and why good men unknowingly destroy attraction by ignoring it. Most men believe attraction grows the more they reveal. They talk about their feelings, their intentions, their past, their hopes. They believe transparency creates connection. What they don't realize is that in the early stages of desire, emotional exposure does not create closeness. It creates familiarity. And familiarity, when introduced too early, is lethal to attraction. Machiavelli understood something uncomfortable about human nature. People value what feels scarce, controlled, and selectively given. Emotional availability, when offered without discipline, loses its value the moment it is poured out freely. Bad boys do not seduce because they are reckless or immoral. They seduce because they instinctively practice emotional withholding. This is the first keynote, and it is the most misunderstood. Emotional withholding is not emotional absence. It is not coldness. It is not cruelty. It is restraint. It is the ability to feel without broadcasting, to care without confessing, to remain present without surrendering psychological ground. When a man reveals too much too soon, he collapses the tension that fuels desire. He turns curiosity into certainty. The human mind stops leaning forward once it believes it has fully understood something. Machiavelli warned that power dissolves the moment your intentions become predictable. In seduction, predictability breeds indifference. Bad boys rarely explain themselves emotionally, not because they are afraid of vulnerability, but because they do not feel the need to prove sincerity. They allow their actions to speak while their inner world remains guarded. This creates asymmetry, and asymmetry is where attraction lives. Notice how often men sabotage themselves by narrating their emotions in real time. They announce interest prematurely. They reassure unnecessarily. They clarify where no confusion was required. Each explanation is an attempt to control perception, but it does the opposite. It hands over control. Machiavelli would say this man is negotiating from weakness. He seeks to be understood before he is desired. He seeks emotional safety before psychological leverage. Bad boys do neither. They let misunderstanding exist. They allow ambiguity to breathe. This ambiguity becomes a mirror. When emotional certainty is withheld, the other person fills the silence with projection. She imagines meaning. She assigns depth. She wonders. Her mind stays engaged not because he is doing something extraordinary, but because he has not closed the loop. This is where emotional withholding becomes power. The one who reveals less forces the other to invest more. Attention follows uncertainty. Desire grows where answers are delayed. Most men confuse this with playing games. It is not a game when it is rooted in self-control. A game requires manipulation. Self-control requires discipline. Bad boys are not strategically calculating every silence. They are simply not ruled by the impulse to explain themselves. Machiavelli warned that men who rush to display their virtues invite contempt. The same applies here. Emotional virtues displayed too early are not admired, they are consumed and forgotten. What is revealed slowly is respected. What is revealed selectively is valued. Bad boys maintain emotional privacy. They do not dump their emotional history. They do not seek validation through disclosure. They do not use confession as a bridge to intimacy. Intimacy, to them, is earned through time, consistency, and earned access. This creates a subtle hierarchy. The man who withholds emotional certainty is perceived as higher value because he appears self-contained. He does not need emotional reciprocity to remain stable. He is not anxious about being chosen. This emotional independence is magnetic. Women sense when a man's emotional state is dependent on their reaction. They also sense when it is not. The former creates pressure. The latter creates intrigue. Emotional withholding removes pressure from the interaction and replaces it with gravity. Machiavelli would frame this as control over oneself rather than control over others. The man who cannot restrain his emotions is easily ruled. The man who can contain them commands respect without demanding it. Bad boys often appear calm not because they feel less, but because they reveal less. Their silence is not emptiness, it is containment, and containment creates density. People lean toward what feels dense, not what spills everywhere. This is why good men often feel confused watching bad boys succeed. They believe morality should be rewarded with desire. But desire is not moral, it is psychological. It responds to tension, uncertainty, and perceived strength. Emotional withholding signals strength. It communicates, without words, that the man's identity is not up for negotiation, that his emotional world is not public property. That access must be earned. Machiavelli warned that those who expose their inner workings invite interference. In seduction, interference takes the form of diminished desire. Most men believe attraction grows through reassurance. They think desire strengthens when uncertainty is removed, when feelings are clarified, when intentions are made obvious. What they fail to understand is that desire does not thrive in certainty, it dies in it. Machiavelli understood that human attention sharpens when outcomes remain unresolved. Controlled uncertainty is not confusion, it is tension with structure. Bad boys do not create chaos, they create stability without emotional transparency. This is the critical distinction. Their lives appear ordered, their actions are decisive, their presence feels grounded, but their intentions are not fully revealed. This contrast is what pulls attention inward and holds it there. When uncertainty exists without direction, it causes anxiety. When uncertainty exists within structure, it creates fascination. Bad boys intuitively maintain this balance. They know where they are going, but they do not announce every step. They invite curiosity without begging for approval. Machiavelli warned rulers never to make their next move obvious. Predictability, he said, invites manipulation. The same principle governs attraction. The man whose emotional future is obvious loses leverage. The man whose direction is clear, but whose emotional destination is undefined becomes compelling. Controlled uncertainty forces emotional participation. When outcomes are unclear, the mind begins to work. It revisits conversations. It replays moments. It searches for meaning. This mental activity creates emotional investment long before any commitment is made. Most men sabotage this process by rushing to remove uncertainty. They clarify too early. They define the relationship before desire has matured. They seek emotional confirmation not because it is necessary, but because uncertainty makes them uncomfortable. In doing so, they trade intrigue for relief. Bad boys tolerate uncertainty because they are not dependent on resolution. They are not driven by the need to secure emotional outcomes. They are comfortable letting things unfold. This comfort communicates strength. Machiavelli would say that the man who is not desperate for control is the one who possesses it. Uncertainty becomes powerful when it is deliberate but not artificial. Bad boys are not inconsistent. They do not disappear randomly. They do not send mixed signals out of insecurity. Their uncertainty lies in what they do not disclose, not in how they behave. Their actions are consistent. Their emotions are not advertised. This distinction matters. Consistency builds trust. Uncertainty builds desire. When combined, they create a psychological pull that is difficult to resist. The woman feels safe enough to stay engaged, but curious enough to stay invested. Machiavelli believed people are drawn to those who appear self-directed. Controlled uncertainty reinforces this perception. The man seems to have an inner world that is not immediately accessible. He is not seeking validation. He is not rushing toward attachment. He appears occupied with his own mission. This creates asymmetry. The one who seeks clarity first reveals dependence. The one who remains comfortable without it holds power. Bad boys do not ask, "Where is this going?" Because their sense of direction does not depend on the answer. The human mind interprets this as value. If a man does not rush to lock things down, it suggests he has options, purpose, and internal stability. Machiavelli taught that perception often outweighs reality. In attraction, perceived abundance amplifies desire. Controlled uncertainty also delays emotional saturation. When everything is known, nothing is anticipated. Bad boys leave emotional questions unanswered, not by evasion but by timing. They let connection grow before explanation replaces imagination. Imagination is a powerful amplifier. The mind fills gaps with meaning and embellishes. It idealizes. It assigns depth. Certainty shuts this process down. Bad boys understand, consciously or not, that imagination is a more effective seducer than information. Most men reveal their entire emotional map early. They believe honesty accelerates connection. What it actually accelerates is emotional closure. Once the map is known, the journey feels complete, even if it has barely begun. Machiavelli warned against revealing strategy before victory was secure. Emotional strategy follows the same law. When intentions are revealed too early, leverage evaporates. Controlled uncertainty preserves leverage by delaying emotional disclosure until desire has taken root. This is why bad boys often seem unforgettable. They leave emotional questions unresolved. Not because they are manipulative, but because they do not feel compelled to resolve everything immediately. Their presence lingers because their meaning is unfinished. Controlled uncertainty is not silence for the sake of silence. It is intentional pacing. It is knowing when to speak and when to let absence do the work. It is trusting that desire grows through engagement, not explanation. Machiavelli would say that those who reveal their hand too soon surrender advantage. In attraction, advantage lies in remaining partially unreadable, not mysterious through performance, but through restraint. Bad boys are not obsessed with being desired. They are absorbed in being themselves. This detachment allows uncertainty to exist naturally. They do not rush to define what has not yet earned definition. The moment uncertainty disappears, desire stabilizes or fades. Controlled uncertainty keeps desire dynamic. It keeps attention alive. It keeps the emotional field active. Most men try to secure outcomes. Bad boys allow outcomes to chase them. This inversion changes everything. It shifts the emotional labor to the other side. It forces engagement without force. Machiavelli understood that people chase what moves, just slowly enough to stay visible. Controlled uncertainty is that movement. Always present, never fully grasped. Always close enough to feel real, never close enough to feel finished. Most men believe power and attraction comes from effort. They think the one who gives more, explains more, reassures more, and invests more will eventually be rewarded. Machiavelli would have considered this a dangerous illusion. Power has never belonged to the one who needs. It belongs to the one who can walk away without explanation. Bad boys rarely appear powerful because they dominate. They appear powerful because they are not dependent. They do not require constant emotional feedback to remain grounded. Their mood does not rise or fall based on approval. This emotional self-sufficiency is what shifts the balance. The moment a man needs reassurance, he exposes leverage. The moment he seeks validation, he reveals dependence. Machiavelli warned that dependence is an invitation to control. In Seduction, the one who needs less dictates the pace, the tone, and the outcome without ever stating it openly. Most men unknowingly surrender power by asking for clarity too soon. They ask where they stand. They ask how they are perceived. They ask what the future looks like. Each question is an attempt to stabilize uncertainty, but it does something far more damaging. It announces emotional need. Bad boys do not ask these questions because they are not emotionally invested in securing an outcome. They are invested in their own direction. This distinction is crucial. Their sense of identity does not hinge on being chosen. As a result, the interaction bends toward them. Machiavelli understood that those who are comfortable without assurance are feared and respected. Not because they are cruel, but because they cannot be easily influenced. A man who is content without emotional confirmation cannot be pressured by withdrawal, silence, or hesitation. This creates an invisible hierarchy. The one who needs clarity first occupies the lower position. The one who can tolerate ambiguity occupies the higher ground. Bad boys do not rush to define the relationship because definition serves the anxious, not the powerful. Needing less does not mean caring less. It means controlling where care is invested. Bad boys do not pour emotional energy into uncertain spaces. They allow interest to develop on the other side first. This reversal changes the entire dynamic. Most men chase emotional certainty because uncertainty feels like loss. Bad boys experience uncertainty as neutrality. They do not interpret silence as rejection. They do not interpret hesitation as failure. This emotional stability makes them difficult to manipulate. Machiavelli would describe this as independence of fortune. The man who is unaffected by emotional fluctuations becomes unpredictable in the best possible way. He is not reactive. He is not easily moved. This stillness creates authority. Authority in attraction does not come from dominance. It comes from calm. The man who remains centered regardless of outcome communicates that his life continues with or without validation. This is not arrogance. It is self-possession. Women sense when a man's emotional state depends on them. They also sense when it does not. Dependence creates pressure. Independence creates space. In that space, desire has room to grow. Bad boys rarely seek to be understood. They do not over-explain their intentions. They do not defend their actions emotionally. They allow interpretation to exist. This is not neglect. It is restraint. Machiavelli warned that those who explain themselves too often appear weak. Explanation is often a request for approval disguised as communication. Bad boys avoid this trap by letting their actions stand alone. When a man needs less, he speaks less. He does not rush to fill silence. He does not fear misinterpretation. Silence becomes a test of emotional strength, and he passes it by doing nothing. Most men fail this test. They rush to restore connection. They send messages to relieve tension. They seek reassurance to calm anxiety. Each attempt to stabilize the emotional field weakens their position. Bad boys let tension exist. They trust that what is meant to stay will move toward them. This trust is not optimism. It is detachment. Machiavelli believed detachment was a form of power because it removes the opponent's leverage. When you need less, you negotiate from strength. You are not bargaining for attention. You are not trading value for affection. You are offering presence without dependency. This creates respect, but desire even has time to form. Respect grows when someone cannot be rushed, pressured, or emotionally cornered. Desire follows respect, not the other way around. Bad boys often appear selective. They are not chasing every opportunity. They are not proving worth. This selectivity signals abundance. Machiavelli taught that perceived abundance amplifies authority. The man who needs less appears to have options, even when he does not. Perception governs attraction more than truth. The one who seems unaffected by outcomes is assumed to be valuable. This assumption shifts behavior on the other side. Effort increases. Curiosity sharpens. Emotional investment deepens, all without the man demanding anything. Needing less also prevents emotional overreach. Bad boys do not escalate attachment prematurely. They allow emotions to grow at a natural pace. This pacing keeps desire alive rather than suffocated. Most men want certainty because they fear loss. Bad boys accept loss as possible and move forward anyway. This acceptance removes fear from the interaction. Fearlessness is magnetic. Machiavelli believed that fear of loss makes men predictable. Predictability destroys power. The man who is not afraid to lose becomes difficult to control. Bad boys are not immune to emotion. They simply refuse to let emotion dictate behavior. This separation between feeling and action is where power lives. When you need less, you wait longer, you observe more, you react less. You allow others to reveal themselves first. This is why the emotional investment often flips without warning. The one who seemed indifferent becomes desired. The one who sought certainty becomes uncertain. Power has shifted, not through manipulation, but through absence of need. The man who needs less does not chase resolution. He allows tension to remain unresolved. He trusts that clarity will come when it matters, not when anxiety demands it. Machiavelli would say this man understands timing, and timing is everything. The moment you stop needing emotional confirmation, you stop broadcasting weakness. You stop pleading for reassurance through words or actions. You stop negotiating attraction. What remains is presence without pressure, interest without attachment, confidence without demand, and in that state, the balance inevitably tilts, because human nature bends toward those who are whole on their own, those who do not lean for support, those who stand still while others move, those who remain unshaken by uncertainty, those who do not rush to be chosen, those who do not fear walking away, those who do not need to win in order to remain intact. Most men believe seduction is about being liked. They shape their words, soften their edges, and adjust their behavior to earn approval. Machiavelli would have considered this the most dangerous mistake of all. The man who seeks approval surrenders authority before the game has even begun. Bad boys do not seduce because they are rebellious or immoral. They seduce because they are not governed by the hunger to be validated. Their behavior does not bend to reaction. Their identity does not fluctuate based on response. This internal discipline is the foundation of their appeal. Self-mastery begins where approval-seeking ends. The need to be liked creates urgency. Urgency creates pressure. Urgency kills desire. Machiavelli warned that those who hunger for favor become servants to it. In attraction, the man who chases approval loses leverage instantly. Most men monitor every interaction for signs of acceptance. They adjust tone. They soften opinions. They overcorrect silence. Each adjustment signals one thing: dependence on outcome. Bad boys do the opposite. They allow outcomes to reveal themselves without interference. This is not arrogance. It is composure. The bad boy's confidence does not come from believing he is superior. It comes from knowing he will remain intact regardless of reaction. This emotional sovereignty makes him unpredictable and therefore compelling. Machiavelli understood that control over oneself is the highest form of power. A man who cannot restrain his impulses to impress is easily led. A man who can sit with disapproval without flinching commands respect without demanding it. Approval seekers explain themselves. They justify preferences. They soften truths. Bad boys do not rush to be understood. They speak plainly or remain silent. They do not negotiate their identity for comfort. This creates polarity. The man who stands firm in who he is forces others to decide whether to align or disengage. This decisiveness is attractive because it removes ambiguity about character while preserving mystery about intention. Most men fear losing interest if they do not perform correctly. Bad boys are not performing. They are expressing. This difference is felt immediately. Performance seeks reward. Expression stands independent of reward. Machiavelli would say that men who act to please others become instruments. Men who act from principle become forces. Attraction responds to force, not instruments. Self-mastery also means resisting the urge to correct perception. Bad boys do not chase misunderstandings. They do not rush to clarify emotional intent. They allow people to sit with their interpretations. This restraint communicates confidence. The man who seeks approval is reactive. The man who practices self-mastery is deliberate. He does not respond emotionally to every stimulus. He chooses when to engage and when to remain still. This stillness unsettles people. It creates space. In that space, curiosity forms. People wonder why he is unaffected. He does not seek reassurance. Why he does not chase affirmation. Machiavelli believed that those who appear immune to praise and blame are feared and admired. Emotional immunity suggests strength. It implies that the man's worth is self-generated. Bad boys are not immune to feeling. They are immune to compulsion. They do not let the desire to be liked override their internal compass. This alignment creates integrity. Integrity creates gravity. Most men confuse kindness with compliance. They believe being agreeable increases attraction. In reality, excessive agreeableness signals insecurity. Bad boys can be kind without being pliable. They can be present without being submissive. Approval seekers abandon boundaries to maintain connection. Bad boys maintain boundaries even if it risks disconnection. This willingness to lose rather than bend is what creates leverage. Machiavelli warned that those who fear loss will always be controlled by those who threaten it. The man who is not afraid to lose approval cannot be manipulated by withdrawal. This self-mastery also means regulating emotional disclosure. Bad boys do not dump feelings to build intimacy. They do not use vulnerability as currency. They reveal selectively, not impulsively. This selectivity makes emotional moments feel earned rather than forced. When they do speak, it carries weight. When they withdraw, it is felt. Most men overexplain because they fear misinterpretation. Bad boys allow misinterpretation to exist. They trust that those who align will stay curious. Those who do not will leave. Machiavelli would say this man understands filtration. He does not chase everyone. He allows separation to occur naturally. Approval seekers try to be chosen. Bad boys choose themselves first. This internal choice is sensed immediately. It communicates self-respect. Self-respect is contagious. People mirror how you treat yourself. When a man does not beg for approval, he is treated as someone whose approval matters. This reversal is subtle but powerful. The man who once chased validation becomes the one whose validation is sought, not because he demanded it, but because he never asked for it. Machiavelli believed that men who depend on others for worth become weak. Men who generate worth internally become untouchable. Bad boys appear untouchable not because they are closed, but because they are complete. Their emotional center does not live in someone else's hands. This completeness removes pressure from interaction. There is no rush to impress, no urgency to secure, no anxiety beneath words. Desire grows best in this environment. It grows where there is freedom, not obligation, where interest is offered, not demanded. Most men exhaust attraction by chasing affirmation. Bad boys preserve it by remaining anchored. Self-mastery over approval is the final separation between those who hope to be desired and those who naturally are. It is the discipline to remain unchanged by reaction, the strength to stand without applause, the restraint to let silence speak, the courage to risk misunderstanding, the patience to let interest come forward on its own, the calm to accept rejection without bitterness, the resolve to remain aligned with oneself even when validation is withheld. Because the man who does not trade his center for approval becomes immovable, and whatever is immovable eventually attracts movement toward it. Everything you have heard comes down to one uncomfortable truth Machiavelli understood long before modern psychology tried to soften it. Attraction is not created by effort, honesty, or emotional generosity. It is created by power over oneself. Bad boys are not powerful because they manipulate women. They are powerful because they do not